Hello and welcome to the next installment of Antichess Modern Masters. So once again, I have firebatprime with me. Welcome.
Hey, how we doing?
And we've got our number 9 and 8 today. We have two superstars to show off. And the first one we've got, well, he's got a couple of different names. He was once known as Dragon Lord many years ago. Now he has a funny sort of username like lIVIl, and we just call him V. He is a winner of the Anti-Chess World Cup and a very, very solid and knowledgeable player. So that's who we're going to look at today for our number 9.
Yeah, and just a quick comment from my perspective from him. He's a super strong player. He's a really fast player. Um, you'll see him playing O2 quite a bit. Lots of long series with players. I played quite a few games with him and I really struggled to ever beat him in anything. One thing about him is when I'm playing, I feel like he never makes any mistakes or like very few blunders where like I feel like I'm playing him and he's waiting for me to make a mistake and I always oblige and make a mistake so that he can beat me. But um, go ahead and pull up a game here that we're going to review. So the first one here we've got, or well, we're just gonna do one game, but this is against Ultimate Super Player, who's very strong theory player, and um, he's a tough opponent. And it seems like usually if you want to be able to beat him, you have to get him off theory. So I think just jumping into this game here, we've got V is white, and he plays G2 and then G3. And this is a pretty common opening that he'll play, or at least at the beginning of the series before we start mixing up opening lines. And so then USP is going to play kind of theory to start with. So kind of what we're expecting. And then at this point, so V dumps his bishop, and then he puts his other bishop back to C1, which, so that's not theory, that's pulling it back. Usually you're bringing your bishop out, oh, sorry, like either here or here. Um, so I think this is kind of the changing point of this game. And so we're going to trade some more pieces. I'm lagging a little bit, but again, similar to the the theory line. And then USP opens up his queen to get rid of that. And then next is kind of an interesting move again by V, or at least in my opinion. I think like my instinct would be to keep my king here and capture with the king. Um, but he does this and then captures with his bishop here. So at this point, the game's pretty even. Um, V has a like a queen, an extra queen, which could be bad, could be good. Like it gives you a chance that like if you can get it out, you can do some damage. So you have a little bit more material. But in an end game like this, your queen's also dangerous. Could go through all of your opponent's pieces if you're not careful. Um, so two, um, V's attacking with his F pawn here, kind of recognizing that yes, I can get there's a capture chain here, but it doesn't result in anything. So USP gets the first pawn killed and then brings his bishop out so that he can get rid of it. So this is double covered, and I don't see any intermediates. I didn't look. This probably doesn't do any good because then this queen's going to be capturing, so that's nothing. So it's a way to just get rid of exchange a few more pieces. And so we're closer to an end game, or this is the end game. So B's got a little bit more of a material advantage, and then he pushes another pawn again, which you can see we've got another capture chain coming. and USP obliges and like offers it up, but V's kind of calculated that there's still going to be one pawn left. So here he promotes to a king, which you've got his bishop coming out here. Um, and I don't know if there was a better promotion than the king, but we get to the end game. Um, and now you've got USPS to advance his pawn. And so now the question is, can we get like all of our pieces killed here? And V's pretty good at that. So first he retreats his king and then gets rid of it. And then I don't know in this spot, like this looks like maybe it's a draw, but and I don't know, time control too. V has a decent amount of time left. Um, he brings his queen up, so if there's a king promotion, he can push it to the side. So I think in this spot, obviously we see that USP has a dark squared bishop, or V has the dark squared bishop, so we could get a draw if he takes a bishop. Um, he takes a king though. Um, and maybe like because you that's looks like maybe a draw too because both of the players have a king, depending on like what happens. And I don't know if he felt any time pressure or not, but so we kind of move these pieces over and push the king all the way to the far side of the board. And then this king is so far over here that V can push his pawn up so that it can be promoted. So developing. USP offers is to basically let V get his king killed, which he does, and then once you move the rook over here, then this is really game over, which was probably officially game over before, but V didn't make any mistakes, and now he's able to keep pushing this pawn to promote. I think he could take a bishop right here in this spot, so a few delaying moves. And then he takes the bishop. A bishop and a rook versus a king's are really easy cleaning. You add a knight. It's also easy, but you just got to be careful that you don't accidentally double cover a square that you shouldn't. So he kind of gets his knight a little bit closer and then starts pinning the king coming in. And then we got a few moves. He should, yeah, okay. Lagging a little bit, but then a pretty good win there. So.
Yeah, so there's a couple of features, I suppose. I mean, that change in opening, that's a very rare thing. So just like FPP says, that bishop C1, that's almost never seen. And just the
Right.
conf yeah, and just the confidence to be able to keep all those pieces even in low time pressure, because it looks like there's not much time, there's no increment, but you still have the confidence to get to the
Yeah,
end
and he
and
does
get
a
it
really
done.
good job of doing that in a sense. Like his style of play does seem to be to like to keep the pieces. So he'll pull stuff back and just hold on to it and kind of do the I'll kill all of your pieces except for one, and then I'll make that piece promote and kill all of my pieces, which is it's it's a interesting and very like strong players can do it. It's entertaining. So kind of like not Zug Zwang, but like forcing your opponent to promote to something when they can't promote to anything is fun to do.
Well, that was the original losers style of play where, you
Right?
really are, you do have so much more opportunity to keep your pieces, but because anti-chess, it's so volatile, it's so hard to keep track of everything. People do end up sacking in time trouble, but yeah, anyway, a really good illustration of the champ's game. And the next one, so number 8, we have a very special player. Um, This is one of my good friends I've known for many years, and she is a wonderful player. And this is a great example of a game she actually played a long time ago against the former world champion Arima Cat. So I think at one stage, when he was at his peak, she had a really good record against him, even years before. And Sudano is also still like teenage years, like she's still at university now, so she's still been that strong for many years, and that's why she's made the number 8 of this list. So yeah, well, perhaps FEP, give us your thoughts.
Yeah, and um as you just stated, like this game's from a little while back, where Arima Cat was kind of, you know, king, and which he was for quite a while. He won the first two world championships, and even before that, like on Fix was, the top player, and just really hard to beat. And I know, like myself, like I barely have any wins against him at all. So this is impressive to just even to get a win. Um, so this game, Arima Cat's white, kind of E3, and Sude does what I call the elephant defense, and then Arima Cat brings out his knight, which is so this line kind of like this double pawn defense on white side. Like I used to do this all the time. So kind of I think a fairly common opening. And so then they both bring out their queens and trade them away. Sudi brings the bishop back because of this threat, which you have to do. And then so developing the knights, and then we're gonna get the rooks killed off here, or and so then we get into this position, which is actually pretty even. I think like when I look at this, like, all right, white kind of controls this side of the board a little bit with their rook. But then they also have these double pawns, which is kind of like a frustrating thing. So like I think this is a pretty even game. Um, Kind of moving forward. So Sude develops her knights, and Arima Cat's pushing his pawn on that side of the board, so kind of standard stuff. And then she's going to start moving her pieces over here to kind of try to deal with this pawn. Um, and I guess from this spot, like this is being threatened, and setting up like a capture chain. So white kind of has to move this pawn forward, which from my perspective, like I don't ever play the elephant defense as black. I'm always feeling that I'm on the white end of these pieces, trying to figure out what to do,
Me too.
and
Me
end
too.
up with like with these two pawns pushed, and you just there's these capture chains that you can set up, and somehow I fall for them more than I should. So she pushes her a pawn and kind of blocks it. And then Arima Cat goes ahead and says, "Oh, let's get rid of your knight." And then kind of lagging here. So she pushes her other pawn, and so we kind of get to this spot, and this is where, like, again, I think this is still pretty even. Maybe white has a slight advantage because they have more control on this side of the board, but this pawn's really a problem. So I feel like this is just like a delaying move. Sude keeps bringing the knight or her king over, kind of threatening to get this pawn out. And then this is, again, I don't know what, and that also feels like a delaying move, kind of like waiting for somebody to make a mistake.
So
And then,
actually, I think that's a real feature of Suri's play because I think she's an extremely patient player. I remember Kex telling me this too, and
yeah,
even a lot of her games, she can just wait it out and wait it out. And sometimes she jokes and says, "Oh, I'm waiting for my opponent to blunder," but really, she's just taking the time to reorganize the pieces, and it's a really patient
well,
skill, which a lot of people don't have in this game.
no, for real. And I kind of mentioned V kind of does that too, as far as just like not making the mistake. So just moving your king over a space and seeing like what they do or not. And this one, like the time control, it looked like they started with like 15 minutes or something. So there was no time pressure for either of them. So it's an interesting, but patience is a big thing in anti-chess. And so this is a patient move. And so then Arima Cat pushes this pawn, kind of opening up his bishop or whatever, but it ends up being like the blunder. This is the game, or like that's the mistake in the game because Sude is then able to set up this capture chain. So sacks the king, brings the knight over, and then you can see she's got the bishop here for two kills, and which allows her to have enough to grab this bishop. And then because this pawn is up a space, she's going to end up being stalemated on this move. Where if this pawn was back one, then she would have had one pawn left. And then Arima Cat, you can presume, would have just cleaned that one pawn, just like we watched in the last video where V was able to take the one pawn. Like if you're playing a strong player, you have to get all of your pieces killed. Like that's the point of the game, is to get all of them killed, not all of them but one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there was actually about four of those games she'd played and won, so we could have kind of looked at any of those, but that was the one that she said was probably one of the more interesting ones. So yeah, well done. That's
Yeah, and anytime like you beat one of these players, like it's a real like accomplishment because like especially Arima Cat at that time. Because he wouldn't he never really played faster time controls. He was always known for playing slower time controls with increment and not to say like I don't know if he could play fast or not. Like I'm sure he probably could if he wanted to, but wasn't interested in it. Where I feel like V's kind of the opposite, where V's almost only playing like O2 and like Bullet or Hyper, like you see him just playing fast.
yeah, well, that's it. I mean, I feel like to be a real complete player, and the ones that have made this list are the ones
Right.
that can really do both. And I
Yes.
guess V proved himself in the World Champs by doing it, even though he's a quick player. And I think
Hmm.
Sudi is great at both. You know, she can play
Yes.
1-0 like lightning, but also play these longer, more patient games. So that's why,
Yeah, and I
yeah.
and I think that's an important part of the list is the ability to do both. So to be the best player, not only do you have to like make all of the right moves, but you have to be fast thinking too. Like you got to be able to do it quickly and under time pressure to, find that clever move that still gets you the win. Like that's what separates you from the other people, and both V and Sude do that on a regular basis.
So if you're watching this and you're a 2400 Hyperfarmer player, don't expect to be on this list just yet until you improve your play, which you can do. And I've seen some of these players who are actually going to come up next, who used to be Hyperfarmers and then they improved their game to really
Hmm.
show their amazing understanding. So stay tuned because we've now done the first three, 10 to 8, and next time we will cover players 6 and 7 in our list. So join us here on Anti-Chess Law next time. Thank you, Firebat, for co-hosting and
Yep.
giving us your
My
expertise.
pleasure. All
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks, guys.
See you next time.